All right, we are live on YouTube and the meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so got my thing. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the multiple delays of the meeting due to the storm and that terrific job Eversource did. And I say that all tongue in cheek. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting for August, really August 4th, but now it's August 18th to order, right? 17th. With that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you could please stand for the pledge. And our town, where is our Madam Clerk, if you're on, could you start the pledge for us?
Okay, there we go. Oh, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
To
republic
the republic,
for which it stands,
and
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for
justice
all.
for all.
Okay, and Mr. DiGiulio? Councilman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Lead us
Yes,
in
Your
prayer.
Honor. We are thankful for this day you have given us, its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day to do what is right for the greater good of all that we diligently serve and represent. We pray for strength and guidance as each day's duties and challenges are embraced. When we be challenged to give our best always, and may we be assured of your presence within and among us. We pray for your continued strength and support during these uncertain and trying times across our city, state, country, and globe. May all those impacted find resolve and look forward to better times. May those no longer with us rest in peace. We also ask that you bless our beloved and dedicated men and women serving in our armed forces throughout the world for their safe returns and selfless service, for which we are forever indebted. Amen.
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 Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Okay, Jean, can you call the roll? Unmute yourself, Jean.
Alves,
You got it.
Present.
Bezade, Mike Esposito,
Present.
Warren Levy,
present,
Salvatore,
present,
Stanley,
Here.
Tabersack,
Here.
Tabersack, I
Here.
see him.
He's here.
Okay, Fox,
Present.
Piero,
Here.
Here.
DiGilio, Cabo,
Present.
Vitello,
Here, if you said Rotello, I'm here.
hello, Visconti,
Here.
Visconti,
Here.
Palmer, John Esposito,
Here.
Santos,
Here.
Perkins,
Present.
Shin.
I'm present if you call on my name.
Yep, we got you.
I think Jeannie froze.
Yep, okay, Camissa
Here.
and Rich Molinaro is here, right?
Here.
Okay.
Jack Knapp's here too.
Okay,
You
Madam Clerk,
missed me.
you froze up on it, so we're gonna move on. There is 21 present, Councilman Bezade is also here. 21 present, 0 absent. I have some comments for public speaking. I'm gonna read them into the record. No particular order here. This is from actually Nick Kaplanis. Okay, I'm sorry. It's from Eugene Moore, Angela Marrero, EJ Harrison, and Casey Bach. Sorry, it came to Nick and then it's being submitted on their behalf. It says, "Dear Council, we'd like to support an approval of the Beaver Street Co-op to clean up and add new Beaver Street Court. We'd also like you to consider expediting the process of building another outdoor court in the city. There has been money in the budget for many years for 2 courts, and the community has made progress. The outdoor courts were taken down over 10 years ago and never replaced. Actually, the outdoor courts were taken down 30 years ago, but whatever. And never replaced. We were fortunate to have the positive experience of having a place to play and want to give today's youth the same opportunity. Thank you for consideration. Morrow, Angela Marrero, EJ Harrison. Thanks again for the help." We have another communication from Greg Williams of 7 College Park Drive, Danbury, Connecticut, 06811. Mayor Boughton and City Council members, my name is Greg Williams. I live at 9 College Park Drive, Danbury, Connecticut, 06811. Am I talking too fast? Okay. I would like to comment on one issue with the proposed EMS agreement between the City of Danbury and the Western Connecticut Health Network. Page 4, Section 7, compensation. This section states the City of Danbury will pay $5,500 per month in advance. As a taxpayer, it's a sound business practice for the city to pay for the service in advance for this important component. Will there be a monthly reporting outlining the services provided? Thank you. We have another message for from Peter Lavelle of 3 Westview Drive, Danbury, Connecticut. Zip code is 06810. The general idea of using block grant to acquire the Super 8 for housing and services sounds like a good one. Some questions: what services will be provided? Pacific House 2019 financials show fixed assets of approximately $11.5 billion. Do they have the ability to take on another $11 million in terms of staffing, maintaining, and providing services over a long term? Are they taking on too much with this potential acquisition? If Pacific House or other organization fails to perform, what is the city responsible for? And won't this require a zoning change? If we award the grant, will there be another council review before this is finalized? Okay, I can tell you that we're not paying $11.5 million for a bill. Okay, this is from Tom Brown. Tom resides at 10 Valerie Lane, Danbury, Connecticut, 06811-4961 is his full thing. He's got comments about a number of items, so I'm just gonna read each one off. Agenda item 3, which is EMS contract, outsourcing Danbury Emergency Management Director position to Western Connecticut Health Network affiliates or any other non-city employees, like outsourcing your central nervous system. The Danbury Emergency Director should have just one boss, and that boss should be the senior elected City Hall official. In a public emergency, the Danbury's loyalties and priorities must be focused on the needs of the City of Danbury and not subjugated or diverted to the needs of a corporation, especially one as large and spread out as Western Connecticut Health Network. When a public emergency occurs, Danbury Hospital will have their own set of challenges. The Danbury EMD might need to coordinate some issues with Danbury Hospital, but the majority of EMD will be conducted with other city department managers with whom EMD has an ongoing working relationship. Those functional relationships cannot be established and effectively maintained by someone located in Danbury Hospital. Additionally, the stated restrictions on external communication make the proposed agreement a non-starter for anyone committed to open and transparent government. Just for your information, the proposed agreement, any communications related to that position must be FOIable. Okay. Now, agenda item 4, donation of vintage race car. Where will the vintage race car be maintained and displayed? Will this be another acquisition that will need around-the-clock police surveillance like Uncle Sam? Item 4 has been withdrawn, folks, just so you have that on your agenda. Item 11, Health Department reports. This is under Department reports, Health and Human Services, so there's different sections for each one. Health and Human Services. Is there a reported mechanism that citizens can exercise to report Danbury commercial establishments not complying with COVID-19 pandemic protocols for employees and customers? To answer that question, there is. You can go online to our website, click on the Health and Human Services site, and you can file a complaint about a specific business. Secondly, Department of Elderly Services. Kudos to Ms. Domenio for maintaining and expanding services to elderly during COVID-19 pandemic. And then Fire Marshal. Personal thanks to Fire Marshal Tiemann for his help in making the process of obtaining a residential brush burning permit via the new online permitting system as humanly possible. Thank you, Tom Brown, for your comments. That is all of the well, the council member can, they had it in their possession. Here, I'll read it.
Yeah, Frank, you just sent me this. It did not come to the Commons website, but it came to you. What do you think?
This did not come, but we're going to read it anyways, just for expedition of just to keep things moving. City council member, so this went to Frank. As a lifelong resident of Danbury, I'm compelled to express my deep concern relative to proposal by Mayor Boughton to the city council to agree to, as he puts it, hiring out of emergency management services a contractual basis with Western Connecticut Health affiliates. In a nutshell, I wish to convey some of my concerns in bullet fashion for brevity. So he's listed a bunch of bullets. I'll read them to you. Assigning contracting of duties to a non-city employee who is not directly answerable to city council and taxpayers is such an important position is concerning. 2, private contractors are not subject to FOI requests. Taxpayers' right to know and their communities prepared is lessly reduced. 2, complex intertwined relationships between federal, state, and city entities are required. And a lack of proof from the administration that this has been vetted and endorsed from Homeland Security, contributing entities that come into play in an emergency should concern the council and exposure authority. While the current preferred private contractual EMD designee Matt Casavecchia has a great past performance record running the EMS, future candidates under contract may not continue to be may not be the purview of the COD. And of course, a general lack of overall control and accountability. I truly feel this proposal is not in the long-term interest of the COD and should well best of the Danbury. It could well be one that is not in conformity with federal, state interests and regulations. I urge you to deny this request at this time. Feel free to contact me if you wish. Thank you for your time and service to our community. Charles J. Sotero, 27 Dare Hill Road, or Dale Avenue, Hill Road. Okay, that is all of the communications that we have for public speaking. At this time, we have some announcements before we enter into the actual minutes. I'm going to first ask Kara Prunty just to give us a brief overview of where we stand on COVID-19, and she can kind of give us an update as to where we are. So, Kara?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. The city of Danbury has seen an increase in positive COVID-19 cases over the past few weeks. Since the week of July 19th, our 7-day average of new cases has increased from 2.3 to this past week, we had an average of 8.4 new cases a day. Our positive test rate is 3.5%. The Danbury Health Department contact tracers are working every day to communicate with those who tested positive and gather relevant information. They are speaking with families where the entire family has tested positive. We believe the increase is due to a few things, but the big trends are from travel and having family gatherings. It is so important to remain diligent in following CDC and state guidelines. If you do receive a call from the health department, please answer the call and provide as much information as possible. It really helps in identifying individuals who have been exposed and who should be tested. It is important to continue to wear a mask in public, maintain social distance, and wash your hands. If you're not feeling well, isolate from your family as much as you can and get tested. It protects you and your family. The city has partnered with Connecticut Institute for Communities for a community drive-through testing day this Saturday, August 22nd from 10 to 1:30 at Rogers Park Middle School. It is free, no symptoms required. We're encouraging everyone to get tested to help stop the spread. That's all I got.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or just anything they want to ask Kara while we have her report? I know it's a little bit unusual, but we are in a pandemic, and I just wanted to know, if anybody wanted it.
Can I ask something, Your Honor?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Ben.
Given the way the cases are increasing, how does this impact our schools, which are going to open up pretty much within 2 weeks, pretty much? At what point does the city step in and say, we're not going to open up the schools?
Those are conversations that we're having with Dr. Sal, our medical advisor, Kathy O'Dowd, the head of nursing for the schools, and also our medical advisor, Dr. Begg. So we are continuing to have those conversations. We're meeting later this week to have a discussion about it, and we'll keep everyone posted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Esposito. John Esposito.
Thank you, Your Honor. Through you to Ms. Pronte.
Yep.
Do we have any authority to enforce any of the regulations put forth by the governor and the state's office? Our police officers or anything like that, issue citations or tickets or anything along those lines? If we see a large gathering, without social distancing and mask wearing?
Yes, we have that authority as a public nuisance.
That's great. Thanks.
Further, Mr. Taversack.
Kara, you know, I always ask you about how the Super 8 situation with the homeless. How many do we have there now? While I have you, so I might have to call you back later.
Sure. Currently, we have 43 people at the hotel, and we have housed 32.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you housed that many. I was wondering if Pacific House has played any part in running it or being there. Have they seen what the operation is? I was just wondering if have they. I know I've been there a few times delivering stuff, and there were some people I didn't know, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm getting old. Okay, so I was just wondering if it's still your department that's running it or just who's doing it.
We are working together with Pacific House. Pacific House is working in collaboration with our staff to do day-to-day operations of the Super 8 shelter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Kara, Your Honor.
Yeah, Mr. Otello.
Yeah, I'm in an area of New England where they have exclusive asymptomatic testing. It's free, it's drive-through, there's no questions. If you think you have it, you don't think you have it, you're just curious, you can just drive in, get tested. Takes a couple of days to get a result back, but it's basically aimed at young people who may be spreading it, not even knowing that they're doing it. And that seems that it might be the issue that's happening in Connecticut now, or at least in Danbury. Kara, do we have any plans to do anything like that? It's proven very successful where I am. Thanks.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. We have both of our federally qualified health centers. There's no questions asked, no symptoms needed. You can drive through both of their locations to do that. So that's definitely a good option for that, especially if it's just for asymptomatic testing. We are planning on doing a couple of these citywide testing days also. That's also targeted at asymptomatic individuals who just want to get tested.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mayor.
Any other questions for Kara? Go ahead, Frank. Councilman Salvatore.
Kara, you say, and I also heard the mayor sent something and said that this is due to travel and also due to, gatherings. Have you been able to determine through the contact tracing specifics of that? And then the second part of the question is, you get the SARA alert for the employees. Is there any thought or is there anything for the schools like the SARA alert where they could use that as some sort of a the beginning of the day questionnaire for the parents to hold them accountable?
So I will, I'll start with the school question. That's something that they have discussed. I know that that's something I've been in discussion with Kathy O'Dowd. They have their own version of that. It might not be a text message, but they do have a system in place. So that's something that we're working on. In terms of pinpointing exactly through our contract tracing, if this is all focused to one event or through one party or through one group that traveled, we can't pinpoint it to one specific group. We've seen several groups. So it's not all from one thing. It's a variety of things. So I wish that we could just say there is one event that happened on one day, but that's not the case.
Any other questions for Kara?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Levy.
what do you do? I know I came home tonight, I'm going by the basketball court, playing basketball, nobody's wearing a mask. Bunch of people are sitting on the bench, no mask. How do you go forward with that? Do you report? Who takes that reporting?
So you can file a complaint via the health department's website, and then they'll do an investigation. They have a team that'll go out and look, but oftentimes it's too late, right? By the time you see it, and you go home and you type key it in, and then we can dispatch somebody out there. We oftentimes will miss that, but at least it'll be on our radar for the next time that activity is going on. Now, generally speaking, we don't put the police department in the middle of trying to enforce regulations because it tends to escalate situations very quickly. And we're trying to de-escalate situations as much as we would like to. However, we will, and we have done that in the past when people have been warned multiple times and have refused, out and out just refused to follow the guidance as put out by the governor. But that's not our first line of defense. We try to get our health department out there to talk to people. These ad hoc games are problematic. The soccer games, basketball, like you mentioned, other ones. While we want to encourage healthy lifestyles for people, the reality is that because there's very little mask being worn and social distancing being kept, we do see a spread going on there amongst those. Pickup soccer games are a classic example of that. But we will try to track it down, Warren, and try to follow people. But it's hard. I mean, at some point, people also have to take responsibility for themselves and take this seriously. Because we can't, as you know, be everywhere at every time, at every minute to say wear your mask and you're too close and et cetera. It's impossible.
I feel sorry for these people. I mean, actually, it's hot. They can't do very much, and they want to play basketball and enjoy what little facilities they have there. But at the same time, I'm concerned with they go home, they pass whatever they get along to someone else, and that's the beginning of the problem. Okay.
Yeah, we've seen that to be that's exactly what's happened. Not with basketball, but with soccer. And soccer is considered a moderate activity for transmission rates. You're really not, it's hard. It's supposed to be hard to pick up COVID from playing soccer, but we've seen a decent number of cases that have been transmitted that way. So if that's happening with soccer, that's happening with basketball, or, if football were to be played, or some of the more close quarter sports that are out there. So it's something we're going to have to monitor and watch and continue on. But if we're going to work our way through this, we've got to have support from our residents. There should not be a resident out there that does not know that we're in a pandemic and that you should be wearing a mask. At this point, it's either they just are lazy, they don't want to, or they're fatigued. In other words, they're just tired of it, or they just refuse. I mean, everybody pretty much has gotten the word, regardless of language or or age or whatever. And now it's really going to be up to us to try to continue to push that when people are at a real high level of fatigue in terms of following these guidelines. I mean, they don't want to do it anymore, but we've seen from the last week, they have to. I mean, we're up, yesterday we had 24 cases of COVID-19. Today we've had 14. So it's not going away anytime soon. So you're on point. Anybody else have a question for Kara?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Yeah, Kara, so the program that you talked about this weekend at Rogers Park that's being offered, is that for Danbury residents only? And I know I participated in a program they put on about a month ago and you needed an appointment. Do you know if there's an appointment needed for that this weekend?
There's no appointment needed or required. It's focused on Danbury residents, but we won't turn anybody away.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Kara?
I do.
Go ahead.
Through the chair. Kara, I just want to highlight again what you highlighted is really important, that the community answers the phone number from from our health department once it calls out. Can you perhaps share something on your department's social media page, or create a graphic that we can relay as well to our email list, to our own, and just echo what you're doing to stress the importance? I know some of us have more filings than other, but I think that just could be an effective way for us to work together and get the importance of the contact tracing, and to have the community know that they should answer this number, whatever we can do to help you.
Yeah, that's great. We have some infographics about contact tracing, but we can add what the number will show as, which is CT Trace. So putting that out there so we can share that. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Kara. Thank you for all the work your department's doing as well.
Thank you.
It's also just a reminder that we are generally 3 to 5 days ahead of the state on our data. So if you see us come out with numbers and then people run to the state website and they go, wait a minute, it's not reflected there. It takes them about a week to catch up to us. And that's because Kara's gathering data from private labs, the state lab, and even out-of-state labs that are out-of-state private labs that are doing testing on Danbury residents. And so her data is a little bit ahead of them. So every once in a while, I'll get a text from somebody up in Hartford going, what's going on down there? And then, I have to even explain to them, well, we're just ahead of you. And it catches up. It usually catches up. Okay, any other questions for Kara? Okay. Seeing none, then thank you, Kara. We appreciate it. We'll probably be back at you a little bit later in the meeting. I just want to make a note. We have several what I consider to be dignitaries on the phone. We have our commissioner that are with us and will be here for questions related to the CDBG pass-through. That's item 7. But we have Commissioner Celia Mosquera Bruno. We appreciate her taking time out of her busy job. She's the commissioner of the Connecticut Department of Housing, so she's on the line here with us. We have Steve DeLella, who's the Director of Individual and Family Support for the Connecticut Department of Housing. Miguel Rivera is with us, Director of Housing and Community Development for Connecticut, and Lena Halloran, Connecticut Department of Housing. We appreciate all the hard work that these folks do. In addition, we also have Raphael, I believe he's with us from Pacific House. And they'll be available later on for direct questioning or just any kind of fleshing out that you all need related to that item. But I did want to welcome them to the meeting. Anybody else I missed? Who? Jerome?
Yes, I think they're all on.
Okay.
I'm trying to look at the names.
Okay. With that, Mr. President, can we have the minutes, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I would make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes as all members have copies, and copies are available for review online and in the Legislative Assistance Office.
Motion is made and seconded by Councilman Perkins. Any changes, deletions, or corrections to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, then I will try your minds on acceptance of the minutes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed signify by saying nay. Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Mr. Majority Leader, can we have the consent calendar, please?
Yes, Your Honor, the consent calendar for August 17th, 2020. Item 6, receive the communication and declare the attached list as surplus and approve the request to dispose of these items at public auction in accordance with Section 2-211 of the Code of Ordinances. Item 8, receive the communication and adopt the resolution authorizing Mayor Mark D. Boughton or Thomas J. Weedle, Director of Emergency Management, as his designee, to adopt the Region 5 Memorandum of Agreement and accept funds from the United States Department of Homeland Security through the State of Connecticut Department of Energy Services and Public Protection 2020 Federal Fiscal Year State Homeland Security Grant Program. This memorandum requires authorization to engage in the regional cost sharing and allocation of funds for the purposes of this program with no local match being required. Item 9, receive the communication and adopt the resolution authorizing Mayor Mark D. Boughton or Kara M. Prunty, Acting Director of Health as his designee, to apply for and accept funding from the Connecticut Department of Public Health for the City of Danbury's Health and Human Services Department for the 2020-2021 fiscal year grants to municipalities in accordance with the Connecticut General Statute, Section 19A-202, in the amount of $91,495.65. No local match is required. And lastly, item 10, receive the communication and adopt the resolution authorizing Mayor Mark D. Boughton or Patrick Ridenour, Chief of Police, as his designee, to apply for and accept funds from the U.S. Department of Justice 2020 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program in an amount not to exceed $19,461, with no local match being required.
Okay.
That's the end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Majority Leader. What's your pleasure, council? Fox?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I move adoption of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded by Councilman Perkins. This is on the consent calendar only. Any changes to the consent calendar? Seeing none, then I'll try your minds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, you're on the phone. Do you want to try reading? You got a bad connection, but you want to try reading the fire captain and we'll see how it goes. Item 1.
Communication, appointment, fire captain. Dear City Council members, I hereby submit for your confirmation the promotional appointment of Fire Lieutenant Robert Shea Hanson to the position of fire captain. Lieutenant Hanson started his career with the fire department on July 6, 2006. He came to the Danbury Fire Department with experience as a volunteer firefighter and as a 911 dispatcher. He was promoted to the rank of fire lieutenant in March of 2014. In addition to his many certifications, such as Incident Safety Officer Rescue Corps Technician, Hazardous Material Technician, and Advanced Rope Rescue Technician. He holds a certification as Fire Officer 1. Furthermore, Lieutenant Hanson has completed coursework toward his bachelor's degree in fire protection engineering and safety technology at Oklahoma State University. Firefighter Hanson has achieved the current rank of #1 on the fire captain eligibility list. It is quite evident that Lieutenant Hanson is a dedicated and highly qualified individual who will serve his department and the citizens of Danbury very well. I am proud and honored to submit his confirmation for promotion to the position of fire captain. Thank you for your considerations. Sincerely, Mark D. Boughton, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's your pleasure, council? Somebody could just signify here. Okay, Councilman Priola.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion that we receive the communication and confirm the promotional appointment of Fire Lieutenant Robert Shea Hanson to the position of Fire Captain.
Second.
Motion's been made. And who was that in the second? I didn't quite hear you. Elmer?
Sweet. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, all those in favor with, well, first let's have any discussion related to this appointment. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I will try your minds. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or give me the thumbs up. Anybody opposed? Give me the thumbs down. Seeing none, then congratulations, Shay. Wonderful job, and you did a great job in the interview process. A round of applause for Shay Hanson, our new captain. Hey, let's move on to item 2, please.
Communication, appointment deputy fire marshal. Dear council members, I hereby submit for your confirmation the promotional appointment of Fire Lieutenant Raymond Guard to the position of deputy fire marshal. Lieutenant Guard began his career with the Danbury Fire Department on October 3rd, 2005. Since then, Lieutenant Guard has obtained many certifications, including, but not limited to, Firefighter 1 and 2, Fire Officer 1, and Fire Service Instructor. He is also a licensed E-1 electrician. Lieutenant Guard has earned the rank of #1 on the current Deputy Fire Marshal eligibility list. Lieutenant Guard's accomplishments and contributions speak to his dedication to the department and the city for which he serves. I am proud and honored to submit his confirmation for promotion to the position of Deputy Fire Marshal. Thank you for your considerations. Sincerely, Mark D. Boughton, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's your pleasure, council? Councilman Knapp.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to make a motion to receive the communication and approve the promotional appointment of Fire Lieutenant Raymond Guard to the position of Deputy Fire Marshal.
Second.
Motion made by and seconded by Councilman Visconti. Is there any discussion about Ray Guard's appointment to the Fire Marshal's office? Seeing none, I will try your minds. All in favor of this appointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. So congratulations, Ray. Wish you the best and keep up the great work in the Danbury Fire Department. Round of applause for Ray. Okay, item 3, please.
Communication, Emergency Management Services. Dear City Council members, the City of Danbury has experienced many catastrophic events and emergencies like an October snowstorm, tropical storms, blizzards, tornadoes, and now COVID-19, a global pandemic. One of the most important lessons learned after dealing with the many emergencies that have impacted our Danbury community is that every emergency management and response begins and ends locally. The strengths and resilience of our Danbury community is never more evident than during a crisis event. At such time, the collaboration of its existing partnerships and relationships from all levels of government, locally based private sector businesses, and nonprofit/volunteer organizations coalesce and work tirelessly to effectively respond to the emergency and to expedite recovery by utilizing all available resources. The chief executive officer/chief elected official and his or hers emergency management director are the core of a local unified command that, depending upon the emergency, may include fire, police, and emergency medical services heads, public health, social services, public works, information technology, school superintendent, human resources, finance, and others. The success of emergency management and the response team during a crisis is largely due to the planning, preparation, training, coordination, community and corporate outreach, communications, etc., that have occurred by the EMD before there was a crisis. In March, I appointed Fire Chief, who's retired, TJ Riedel, to temporarily serve as the Emergency Management Director and to assist in finding a new EMD. During this time, several options were considered that included maintain the same approach of providing a small stipend to an existing staff member, adding a new full-time permanent position for the EMD, or hiring out the emergency management services on a contractual basis with Western Connecticut Health Network affiliates. The option that would clearly best serve the community of Danbury is also the most cost-effective. Western Connecticut Health Network affiliates, formerly Danbury Hospital, had been contractually operating the city ambulance service very successfully for nearly 30 years. During most of this time, Mr. Matt Casavecchia has been the director of the Danbury Ambulance Services. Consequently, I am recommending a very similar contract for the emergency management services with the Western Connecticut Health Network affiliates and its employee, Mr. Matt Casavecchia, who is also exceptionally qualified as an EMD to serve the city's emergency management director. His resume is attached. I hereby submit for your consideration an emergency management service agreement between the City of Danbury and Western Connecticut Health Network Affiliates Incorporated. Sincerely, Mark D. Boughton, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. What's your pleasure, Council? Councilman Mike Esposito.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion that we receive the correspondence and approve the appointment of Matthew Casavecchia to the position of Emergency Management Director.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. We'll now move to discussion and no particular order. So just give me a wave when you have questions or whatever. Start with Mr. Tavrisek. Your hand is up first.
Okay, I thought the city did as well as could be done under this emergency that we had with the storm. But since we had the postponement, I talked with some people who have a much better knowledge of civil defense and emergency disasters and so forth. And I agree with the person who was in the notes in the beginning, that it's such an important thing and so varied and involves so many various departments, from the police, the fire department, the hospital being one of them, and so forth, that this should be and remain a city responsibility. I just don't see any other way. The mayor has to be the one, which, by the way, you did, stick up with the city, be on top of everything. And I feel that there has to be somebody directly in City Hall that is always doing these things, and that the hospital is placed such an important part of it. It's only one piece of the whole jigsaw puzzle that goes into the emergency disaster teams and so forth. So nothing against the person who is recommended. In fact, it comes very highly with recommendations, but it's just the fact that we're giving this responsibility and turning it over a great deal to the hospital rather than the city taking the responsibility itself to manage everything really causes me some great concerns. And I really feel this should still remain under the city government of Danbury. Okay, and I gave this a lot of thought, by the way. We had the time to do it.
In the dark. No
Thank
less.
you.
Thanks, Mr. T. Mr. Salvatore, and then Mr. Johnson. And then
Just
Mr. Fred.
before I ask my actual question, the motion is more than just approving Matt Casavecchia as the emergency management director. I mean, we're actually outsourcing the position, so there's more than just the appointment, correct?
Well, it's approving Mr. Casavecchia in that role and the agreement that you're going to.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is I'm not speaking out against Matt because I've known Matt for a very long time. And I know him to be without equivocation, the perfect person for this job. What I am concerned is that we're creating once again an EMD role that appears to be created in a way that gives it additional responsibilities on top of an already full-time position. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, but I believe it's been a share job for quite a while. I don't think it's been totally civil preparedness and EMD as a single role for a while. It's been a shared role, especially with the airport with Paul Estefan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's been, that's correct. Yeah, it's been a shared role for about 40 years.
Yep. So after ECS, COVID-19, October snowstorms, and other natural and man-made disasters, I would have to tell you that I would have no issue voting for a full-time city employee whose sole role is to be the City of Danbury EMD, but I realize that's not what this agenda item is asking for. My major concern with this is that on page 4, number 6, authorized official delegation does delegates Matt Casavecchia or his designated successor as the Director of Emergency Management to have authority over the operational and decisional components of the city's emergency management activities. The Director of Emergency Management does report to the mayor, which is a good thing to see. I have a concern regarding the line or his designated successor. I've read this contract a few times. Nowhere in the contract does it specify that the mayor or the city council shall have the ability to interview, which I really think should be the mayor's role because it reports to him, and approval of the city council. Danbury Hospital has rebranded like 5 or 6 times in the last 5 or 10 years. There's no guarantee that they or any newer entity will allow the oversight. And I feel that not having it in this contract is an issue. And as you see by the letter that I received earlier that I entered into the record, there is another, and it sounds like 2 letters where they're concerned as well. I understand the urgency with TJ retiring to get this done, but voting for this as is concerns me. I really wonder if we should have another 30 days to ensure the city has oversight of any potential new personnel, because I've asked this question. And David had answered the question that he has a good relationship with Matt, but in the end, if it's not in the contract, where does it protect the city?
Let me just say that the charter dictates the successor. So what would happen is if Mr. Casavecchia were to become a professor at Yale University or something like that, the mayor would choose the successor. And if there wasn't a successor that the mayor was comfortable with in that organization, then certainly could have an option of going back to a full-time employee that you would pay $140,000 to internally. But that decision cannot be made by Danbury Hospital. That decision can only be made per our city charter by the mayor with the confirmation by the city council. Go ahead, Joe Cabo, your hand's up.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could refer folks to page 3, paragraph 3 of the agreement. And it says the city shall retain authority with respect to its governance and operations, including the services and related compliance activities to the extent required under federal, state, or local laws, regulations, ordinances, or mandates. The city retains its fundamental financial and operational oversight. It is expressly understood that consistent with Connecticut General Statute 28-8A, the chief executive officer of the municipality in which major disaster emergency occurs or his designee may take such action as he deems necessary to mitigate the major disaster or emergency and to secure and preserve any documents and evidence pertinent to and necessary for future investigation. So I think it's covered there, Mayor. I think that the city has its authority retained in that paragraph, and if Mr. Pinto would like to opine on that, I would certainly appreciate it.
Les, you want to just answer that concern?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, in addition to that, I think you're on point with paragraph number 3, Mr. Cavo. In addition to that, the charter, as the mayor indicated, specifically provides that the mayor appoints, the mayor removes, therefore can also replace after the removal the emergency management director or the civil preparedness director, whatever the case may be. And in addition to that, and here's kind of the beauty of the arrangement, not only does the mayor retain the jurisdiction, but the mayor here, if you approve the agreement, you are harnessing the additional services of the Danbury Hospital in addition to providing for an EMD. So the statutes further, 28-7 of the statutes further specifically indicate the mayor's authority to both appoint and remove, and the coordinated effort of such forces as may be necessary to provide services. So it ties it in. But if the concern is specifically that Matt Casavecchia would be replaced and then we'd be in limbo, that problem is solved because the mayor would have that authority anyway under the sections that we just cited. So I believe that is covered fairly safely if you approve both the appointment and the agreement at the same time.
Just a question, shouldn't something like that be referred to in this agreement to make sure that it's, easily found?
Well, that's a good point, Councilman. It could be, but if we read the agreement in its totality, incorporate the local law as well as the state law, in most instances, we read these into contracts in a way that's consistent without having to recite it specifically. Because if we did that, we'd probably have to incorporate so many other provisions that are very, very specific. And I don't know if that's necessary, but we certainly could. But if you take the language that President Cavo read, if you take the language of the charter and the statute I recited, you never know. There could be an issue 3-4 years down the line that we're not aware of. But I'm comfortable that the mayor retains his jurisdiction under both the local charter law as well as the statutes here.
Don't forget the mayor has, the city has the right to terminate the contract at any time.
Your Honor?
I did see that.
Yes, the hospital.
Okay, John Esposito. Councilman Esposito, I don't know if you can hear me. Am I muted?
I hear you. Thank you, Your Honor. I have a few questions about this. My first one is, and it was asked during the public input, will there be a representative present at city council meetings to provide reports, answer questions, anything like that?
Yes.
If this is approved?
Yes.
Okay, and we're gonna get a monthly report as well?
To the extent that, we could do, this is one of the nice things about this is Mr. Estefan, as you know, with all due respect, a great guy. I think we all liked Paul and wish him well in his retirement. Would from time to time provide a report, but if the council would like monthly reports, that's certainly something that Mr. Casavecchia would do for us that would be included in your council packet. So yeah, that could be.
Yeah, that's satisfactory. I mean, it's not every day we have an emergency that, even every month that we need a report from an emergency director, only when we have a situation like we have had with the COVID-19. I mean, many of us have directed questions to Acting Director TJ Weedle. So I will say that I do appreciate in the agreement on page 5 under termination that it gives either party the option of terminating the agreement prior to, it looks like 180 days. And it was kind of a good thing that we had our meeting set back a week or two here, because it gave us time to really digest this. Out of hand, it was, a little bit, concerning given our current situation in a pandemic. I don't personally think we need a full-time acting director. I think, I would rather prefer that we have a city employee answerable to the, directly to the city council and the mayor, with a paid stipend, shared position like we have had for the last 40 years. But I'm willing to, give this a shot. I'll vote in favor for this. It seems pretty cut and dry and very reasonable. I've read the agreement, and I'm satisfied the city will be protected. And in case of an emergency, it looks like we'll be covered fairly well. So thank you.
Further,
Your Honor.
Mr. Visconti did have a hand up, Mr. Rotella. I'll get to you. Go ahead, Mr. Visconti. Fred,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have known Matt for well over 30 years, worked with him through the fire department and the ambulances and so on and so on. Just looking at his resume and what he's done for the ambulance over the years, I really don't have a problem with this. And seeing that you have I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
Somebody's friend.
Continue, Mr. Visconti.
Oh, I muted myself.
Unmute.
Sorry. It wasn't you. That's good.
He's still muted. Can you unmute?
There's a red button that pops up that I'm asking you to unmute.
Looks like he's hitting the video.
Yeah. Yeah, we can come back to, we'll come back to Fred while we work on that. There he is. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Warren, just a few seconds, if I may, to the mayor. You have the authority under what the information we just received. So right now, as it goes, and we can always keep watching what's happening. But I think Matt is more than enough person to be able to handle this job. So I would be in favor of going along with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
That's all right.
Further discussion.
Your Honor.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Rotella, you have the floor. You were. Go ahead.
Thank you. I hate to approve a contract based on the generosity of its termination clause, but I mean, seriously, for anybody who is even remotely nervous about this, there is a get out of jail clause in this contract that's rare to the point of being extreme. I mean, I'll just read it. Either party shall have the right to terminate this agreement without cause and without financial or other liability to the other. In other words, that's a walkaway clause that either party can execute with no blowback, no reason, just a letter. Hey guys, we're not happy with this anymore. We're walking away. So Paul was Estefan, Director Estefan, director of the airport parking authority and tickets and things like that. And also the civil defense director. It was a part-time job. Paul did a great job. The city does not have a fully staffed EMS department that we're now selling to the hospital. We don't have one. We've never had one. We've had a director who has basically been a part-time with a part-time position. He's been a full-time city employee, but he's had a part-time position doing this. And this is not, we're not selling the crown jewels to New Vance. And for anybody who's even remotely nervous about where this is going to go, if Matt should decide to, I don't know, go to Norwalk or San Diego or something like that and leave us in the lurch. And we have some issues with the next, his successor, or other issues with our contracted partner, Nuvance. We can walk away with no liability at all. I'm not going to get into this, but it's a two-phase thing. There is a default termination clause. So if someone is in default, they can actually complain to the other party and give the other party enough time to rectify the default if we just have a small problem with the contract, but don't want to walk away from it entirely. But if it got to the point where we felt that we simply couldn't live under this agreement, we can simply leave it, and we can hire somebody to work out of City Hall directly without any fear of lawsuit or litigation. So I think that all in all, this is an interesting start. We're doing it with the ambulance. I'm generally on the public safety, health and welfare, fire and police ad hoc before the budget, and that's where we see Matt on a yearly basis. And he's been doing this with Nuvance since I've been on the council. And I don't see much of a difference with this. It might even raise the level of professionalism a little bit higher than we could expect to see working on our own. I will be happy to give this a chance. I think it's going to work well, and again, if it doesn't, we can walk away. So I don't have an issue with this. I think it's a good idea. Thanks, Your Honor.
Councilman Levy.
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted to speak in behalf of Matt. I think I served on almost every contract we had for the ambulance with the city. And when it first started, Matt certainly didn't have a bio that he has now, but his current bio, and he spent his entire career basically in emergency service of all aspects of it. And knowing knowing a pretty good idea of what the job calls for, I think we're really very fortunate, especially with the terms of the agreement that you as mayor have put together to have someone of that caliber to take on the responsibility of civil service, emergency service in Danbury. So I will support it, and I encourage my colleagues to support it as well.